All right, good morning, 7th grade. It's been a while since we've had a video, but that's okay. So today we're starting a new area. We're going to start talking about angles. All right, and we've done a bunch of angles before. All right, so that's our objective for today. And this is 7th grade. All right, so what do we know about angles? Well, we already know a lot about angles from 6th grade and 5th grade, okay? First of all, we know that this, with the little red square in it, is called a right angle. And we know that's 90 degrees, right? And that's the most important angle, is the right angle. I'm going to get some things here to help visualize what we're doing. So write down that right angle. Where are all my rulers at? There. Okay. Okay. So right angle, 90 degrees. And we know if we take that right angle and start to close it, it becomes an acute angle. And an acute angle is basically from 1 degree to 89 degrees. I mean, it goes to 89.999 and 0.111111, but you're pretty much between those two, okay? So more than 0 degrees, less than 90. And if I take that right angle again, it could be any direction, it's still a right angle, right? It's got it squared off with a 90-degree angle. If I open it more, it's called an obtuse angle. And we know that this obtuse angles are basically 91 degrees to 179 degrees. And another important one is called a straight angle. And this one is 180 degrees exactly, okay? All right, so those are the ones we already know. Today we're gonna learn about some new angles, okay? And the first ones are called complementary. And now we're talking about more than one angle. So complementary angles add to exactly 90 degrees. All right? So if I took a 90-degree angle, and remember the 90-degree ones usually have this little red square here, and I cut it into two angles, and I tell you that this one is 60 degrees, it says they have to add to 90. So this one has to be 30 degrees because I took a 90-degree angle and cut it into two. So those are complementary angles. 60 plus 30 is 90, all right? Now I could say, oh, what if it was 70 degrees? What would a complementary angle be to 70 degrees? Well, what would I add to 70 to get 90? That'd be 20 degrees, all right? Or I could say 80 degrees. What would I add to that to get 90? I'd add 10 degrees. And we could even say 89 degrees. What would I add to that? 1 degree, right? So those are complementary angles. And all that does is shift where this is on the 90-degree angle, okay? So complementary angles add to 90 all the time, always, no matter what, all right? So if I told you this, if I said 52 degrees and 38 degrees, and I said, what kind of angles are those? You would say they're complementary because they add to 90, okay? Or they're complements, sometimes they call them. Now you could also do three of them. I could say 60 degrees, 20 degrees, and 10 degrees. Those three put together are complementary angles. And those will look pretty much the same. You have a 90-degree angle, right? And you'd have a 60-degree angle, 20-degree angle, and a 10-degree angle. Looks something like that. Okay, so you have a 90-degree angle cut into complementary angles. All right, the other ones we're going to learn about today are very similar to this. These are called supplementary angles. And these things you have to actually memorize, these two words. Complementary and supplementary. So supplementary angles add to 180. So that means you have a straight angle, which is 180 degrees, right? And maybe I cut this one in half. And I might say this one's 100, and this one's 80. So those are called supplementary angles. Or I could take that same thing, cut it straight up and down, and say 90 and 90, right? Or I could cut it into 3 angles. So maybe they put a little square here and tell you this one's 90. And this one's 50. And this one's 40. So now you have 3 angles that add to 180. As long as they add to 180, they're supplementary, okay? And you may not always see them going up like this. Maybe your straight angle looks like this. But it still makes a straight line. You could say this is 30 and this is 150, right? So as long as you have a straight line and it's cut up into 2 angles or 3 angles, those are supplementary angles. Don't forget, these are right angles, right? So you have a 90-degree angle, maybe 60 and 30 degrees, right? All right, so what do these math problems look like? Well, we're going to start off with the easy ones today. They may give you a picture that looks like this. And say this is X, and say this is 40 degrees, and they want you to find X. Well, I know a lot of you guys can do this in your head, but I'm not going to let you. And there's a reason for it, because these are going to get harder. And you're going to have to use algebra. So we're going to learn how to use algebra. So we know these two have to add to what? Well, it's a right angle, so they have to add to 90. They're complementary angles, right? So I'm going to write down that they equal 90. Well, what equals 90? X plus 40. This is the way I want you to solve it. These two added together equal 90. We know it's 90 because of this right angle, okay? And then we just solve it. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, I can do that in my head. You can. But the ones we're going to do in the next day or two, you're not going to be able to do in your head. All right? All right, so, good. That's a complementary angle, and that's how I want you to solve it. Let's look at a supplementary angle. All right, so this one makes a straight line. There's no right angle, right? So we know they have to add to what? Well, there's supplementary angles. They have to add, this one has to add to 180. And what has to add to 180? M and 102. Draw your line and solve it. Cancel out. M is 78. Okay? So this is how I want you to solve them using these equations. You must show the equations. Because soon we're going to have ones that look like this. You're not going to know either of them. And the only way you're going to be able to solve them is using algebra. So we're going to practice using algebra, okay? We'll get to those the next day. All right, you guys have a good day. Oh, I have one more thing that may show you. So it may say, find the complement. And number 1 might say 40 degrees. Well, complements add to 90, right? So what would you add to 40 to get 90? Let's do 90 minus 40. You would just write 50 degrees and circle it, okay? So some of them, they don't have a picture, but they tell you it's going to be a complement. It means it's going to add to 90. So if they told you 1 degree, you would say 89 degrees. Make them add to 90, okay? That's all there is to it. If it says it's a supplement, they add to 180. All right, you guys have a good day.